Peace Be Still is the title of today's word that I'd like to share with you. We all will know how it was indeed Jesus who spoke those words after he was rudely awakened by the disciples as he was sleeping in a boat on a pillow, and the disciples were rushing in because suddenly they realized that their boat was filling up with water and they were now anxious that they were going to die. The storms were raging. In Mark chapter 4:39, it says, "Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, 'Peace, be still.' And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm." It was just at the command of his voice that peace came into being, that order was restored, tranquility came into the scene. Coming from the Caribbean, where each year, around the months of July to September, we are constantly being threatened by the hurricanes. As you know, these are storms that have the capacity of reaching over 250 kilometers per hour. And when one is living in such an environment, you're always worried about how will you survive? What will be your livelihood after the storm? Because it literally wipes away everything, from your houses to the fishermen's boats to everything is gone. And so it has an immense impact on the lives. When I look at that verse, when I think about that passage in Mark and compare that with the stormy weathers that we experience so heavily in the Caribbean, I get a different perspective and I say, gosh, that is indeed quite a tough one to say to a storm, peace be still. And particularly, I can relate to the disciples who are in the boat and wondering, how can he be asleep when everything around him is spinning out of control and there seems to be no place to feel safe? Today, I'd like to encourage you about peace be still, and actually encouraging myself as well, as I currently also am going through a storm, perhaps just like you. And I'm wondering, oh Lord, do you see me? Do you see the storms around me? I think most of us will agree that the word peace is one of the words that we hear a lot. Shalom, it is called Shamal in Arabic, Shanti, Pas, Pei, Vrede, Mir, different words for the very same thing that globally everyone is after. Young and old reach out and say, I want peace. The other day, I had to laugh because this little boy tells me, Auntie, I'm so tired, I just want peace. And I'm thinking, whoa, where is this coming from? You at an age of 7, how can you be talking about peace? But then I caught myself and I said, you know, possibly it is so true that even at that age of 7, our kids are tormented by the plagues of social media and the wannabes and have to be society we are in. Yes, we're living in a world where we are spinning out of control and we are all after some form of peace. World peace, social peace, societal peace. We see that people are speaking about peace in families, in relationships, and even peace of mind and peace with ourselves, with our own true identity. We know that the word peace, it indicates to what a friend of mine told me the other day. It's wholeness, completeness. It is nothing broken, nothing missing. And when we can see that that is the type of peace that we can only get in Christ, we then acknowledge that in any circumstance, that is the peace that can only come from Christ and can only come through what He has done for us. And we can truly rest in any circumstance that we are experiencing. He says in His word, in John chapter 14, verse 27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Another verse speaks about how we have been given the gift of peace. Colossians chapter 3, verse 15 speaks about, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. And so we need to have that sense of understanding that peace was meant for us to have in our lives. And we all know that the enemy is out to kill and destroy, and he's after that peace. And so all he wants is a situation where we are spinning out of control and have not any rest. But when we find the secret, and that is in the eye of the storm, rest in Christ, we experience that true peace comes from Christ, and then the enemy flees away. I'd like to end with just reminding myself one of the truths that I grew up with. You know, in the Caribbean, we have three things we always tell ourselves when there's a hurricane. Forgive me for saying it in my local language, but we say, you must lock up and shut up. When you lock up and shut up your house, you have to put boards in front of the windows, the doors, and that means you go in the inner part of your house. And that means, in other words, when we're going through storms, we need to find our peace inside in God's presence. Dig in His Word. As He says in Psalms 119, 165, great peace have those who love your law, and nothing can make them stumble. So we need to lock up ourselves, silence the voices around us, and shut that world outside of us. The second thing we need to do is wait and pray. We always say that, very nice. We need to be able to tell ourselves that the storm will pass. Wait for the time, the appropriate time for the storm. Stay calm, confident, keeping your mind controlled with the words of the Spirit. The Bible tells us in Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition and with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard our hearts and our mind in Christ. The last point that we always remind ourselves when we are experiencing these winds is sing to the Lord. In the storm, sing, yes. As we've seen Jehoshaphat when he was being attacked by the Amorites and the Moabites, he was terrified like the disciples were. And he cried out to God, and he said, help me. And what gave him the victory was when they started to sing. And we read in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 21, give thanks unto the Lord. His faithful love endures forever. I don't know what the situation is you're dealing with. It might be financial, it might be relational, it might be academic, work-related. Might be dealing with toxicity in various ways in your environment, with friends, family, or colleagues. One thing I want to encourage you is that lock yourself out of that world. Wait for this season to pass and sing in the storm. It will make all the difference. The Bible tells us in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, that the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace and remain at rest. Be still. Bless you, my friends.